Should we legalize or decriminalize prostitution? Now, if this question makes you feel uncomfortable, angry, or you instantly want to avoid this, then it's that reaction that might just be the very thing that you need to spend time in this podcast. See, a lot of men are getting screwed over emotionally, sexually, and rationally. They're in sexless marriages, long-term relationships with zero intimacy, and a lot of guys that I work with are just being stuck in being single forever, battling frustrations and shame in silence. The thing is, sex is a real need for most men. It's not just luxury. It's not just a craving. It's a biological hardwiring by Mother Nature for us men to want and desire sex, to pursue women, to procreate, to spread our genes. This is not a dysfunction. That's evolution. See, men have up to 20 times more testosterone than women do. And testosterone is the primary hormone for your sexual drive and desire. And while women have their own needs, their emotional, relational, and spiritual needs, our Western world is quite actually caters for those. She's got therapy, she's got coaching, she's got a safe space. And while a whole movement is saying, your feelings matter, you go, girl. She's even got sex toys and society slowly normalizing her pleasure. It's being celebrated, not being shamed. But for men, where's our outlet? For men, expressing sexual needs as seen as sleazy, it's weak, it's creepy, you're disgusting, you're wrong. And this creates extreme disgust and contempt. So we're told to man up, men are always cheaters, or just control yourself. And if he dare looks at the physical connection, especially if it's paid, suddenly he's called a predator, an addict, a loser. So here's a real question. Why do women get a safe emotional space and outlet and celebrate sexual ones, while men are left with guilt, judgment, and secrecy? Is this a double standard? Or is it buried in the layers of cultural conditioning, religious guilt, and toxic moral shame? In some liberal countries, like European ones, sex is open. It's free from taboo. It's not seen as seedy or shameful. It's natural. It's part of human being. So what if the problem isn't men's needs, but the shame that we attach to it? Welcome to the Nice Guy Show. I'm your host, Faisal, and I'm joined with Chuck Chapman and Ari Graf. And today we're going to be discussing a real topical question here. Because I know this because a lot of men I work with, successful men, kind men, family men, who are sexually frustrated. They're in some sort of relationship. Some of them have been in some sort of relationship where they've had sex for months, even years. And some single guys are stuck in a world full of porn, dating apps, and rejection. And some of them quietly see escorts. Not just for sex, but for connection, for comfort, for company, for being seen. Some of these men are married, some are not. But they're human. They've got needs. And society gives them nowhere to go except the shadows. Now here's the real question. Are we denying men of their natural, healthy outlet, forcing them into guilt, secrecy, and dysfunction? You've seen it, religious cult leaders or religious leaders caught in affairs, men with secret addictions, dark corners of the internet filled with shame-driven obsession. But why does it always have to stay hidden? Because shame loves secrecy. And when we keep things sexually locked in the dark, it doesn't disappear. It gets darker and darker. So in this episode, I really want to tackle some of the things that are natural and innate to us. So guys, aren't men already paying for sex in a way? Expensive dates, gifts, lavishes, holidays to get sex? Aren't nice guys getting to get sex? So guys, have you ever worked with clients who have real struggle with using maybe escorts and wanting to get their sexual needs, but they don't feel like they can?
Every single day. That's pretty much all I work with. Sexually frustrated men, sexually frustrated nice guys. Yeah, it's a real problem. Yeah, I think that so many of us, with so many messages around sex, first of all, that we get growing up, that whether, it's cultural or religious, kind of like you were saying, Faisal, that there's this idea that sex is bad, and that there's this shame and this stigma around wanting sex. And I think even like, I would say the nice guy seduction, is we show up in a relationship pretending like, oh, I'm not like all the other guys who just want to have sex with you. I want to get to know you, and I want to get to, understand you. I'm not like all the other guys, but deep down inside, all we want is to have sex with them. So I think that's the thing that, and maybe this is, I can't speak for women because I can't experience that, but if a man is talking to a woman, he probably wants to have sex with her. Doesn't matter what she looks like. I mean, we're just kind of wired to have sex and think sexually. I would, even this last couple of weeks, as was doing some traveling, and I'd meet up with different people. My wife's sitting right there, and I'm like, I wonder what it'd be like to bang her, with the woman across the way. It's just like my mind works that way. I'm not going to do it, obviously, but I'm just like,
did you verbalize it?
Did I verbalize it? No, I didn't verbalize it.
No, because otherwise you can't have a conversation. It'll be constantly verbalizing. I think every man does that, don't they? I mean, like I'd do her. I would do her. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. With enough alcohol, I'd do her too, kind of thing. Like it's, was it Billy Crystal said, women need a reason for sex, men just need a place. It's kind of that, like, we're just dogs, we'll fuck anything. And I think that it's that admission of that is what keeps us stuck in shame. And one of the things that, be careful how I say this, is that my shadow is a predator. My shadow is like, I want to have sex with a woman, and I don't care about her, and I don't give a, about her emotional needs and all this stuff. Now, my light part of myself does. It has the morality and all of that. But if I'm just talking pure instinctual drive, watch out, like and I think that's the part of the duality that we're always struggling with. The part of me that's like the predator, and then there's the other side of me that's the compassionate lover.
The candlelit dinners and
tell me
all your problems, and the other part.
Tell me all your problems,
yeah.
The
raw. What about you, Ari? There's got to be some raw Ari in that one. Look at him. Doesn't he look like a predator to you?
Well, I mean, I've worked with nice guys who use escorts. And sometimes, they'll be aware enough to say, I just wanted attention. I just wanted someone to listen to me. I just wanted companionship. So it isn't always about actually having sex, which I think it's so interesting how people use prostitutes for different reasons. Which is why I think the psychological piece to this shouldn't be left out of the conversation. Like, I don't think it should just be like, well, prostitution should be legal and that's it. Like, people should have the choice. I do think it's worth people reflecting on why they're using prostitutes. At the same time, like, I think it should be safe and legal. I think that would be best. That's my opinion on it. What do you think, Faisal? Do you think it should be legalized?
Yeah, I see a lot of guys that are very secretive about it and really underground about it, and they have these needs that they're taking it to the escorts, and they feel real guilt and shame, and that shame is really building up. And like you said, when shame builds up in darkness, it comes out as real bad addictions. It externalized shame as there's a shame that binds you. John Bradshaw, he wrote this really great book about shame, and he says that internalized shame, if it's not healthily dealt with, it externalizes as real self-sabotaging dysfunction behavior. So that's why we have a whole problem with porn, with a lot of addictions that we're transmuting. And I think there's part of human beings, a part of men, that really wants to be able to experience physical touch, intimacy, connection. And I think for guys, people think it's just a physical guys are just going there for a physical contact and just to have sex. I've spoken to, I've gone to strip clubs with clients as well. And I love going to the strip clubs and having a conversation. And I'm always so inquisitive. And I talk to the girls, and there's so many things I learn about the guys from them, and the girls see the guys in a very different way. They really understand male behavior as well. And you can go there, and she says, dude, some guys just come here and they will pay me just to talk. They will just pay me just to talk. They don't even want to dance. They will just sit there, and I will just sit there and listen. And maybe the future for legalizing prostitution, I think, can really help guys, not just physically and get that pent up tension and the dark side, but also be seen, be connected, and get rid of that taboo of them wanting that need for having that sexual desire and want. And again, for the industry, and I think legalizing it in Europe, there are some places where it is legal, that legalizing it will take it out of the underground, will take it out of the taboo, have a conversation about it, because there's a lot of sexual shame around in religion. There's a lot of sexual shame around in culture as well. So when we start normalizing this, imagine if we did normalize it. Imagine if it was as normalizing it as going to therapy to have your emotional needs checked, but also going to an escort to have your physical needs set. And it's the oldest profession in the world. So why not regulate it? Why not bring it out into the light where we can deal with it more rationally and maturely and emotionally, rather than making it really secretive?
Well, I think once you start going down the rabbit hole a little bit here, then you start, well, why not legalize pedophilia? Why not? Those are the why not legalize heroin? So I think where's the line in which morality and legality sort of come together? And I think that just because, for example, I think, marijuana is legal in most states now, and I don't know if it's been helpful or not. I know a lot of people smoke pot now that maybe didn't used to smoke pot. And so just by legalizing something and normalizing it doesn't necessarily mean it's the most healthy thing. So I think that that's also the flip side of the conversation is, if you're legalizing prostitution, then you're cutting out the whole need for, the creating deeper relationships. It's, it becomes more of a social thing where, it's like, oh, well, I don't need to go out and learn how to talk to women. I just pay a woman to talk to and have sex with me. It's just kind of for me, in some ways, and I get that I don't want it to be shameful, but at the same time, it's like, it's just like junk food. Junk food's legal, not necessarily good for you. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, Chuck. What do we value as a culture? I think we do need to make decisions, and things like, the legalization basically of weed in our country. Yeah, there's a lot more people hooked on weed or using it to self-medicate in ways that I don't think are healthy. And even like gambling has become more legalized in the US, and there's a lot more people with gambling problems. I don't, I think we have to be careful about what we're promoting, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, I think to Faisal's point, it's like, okay, there's sexual shame. And part of the reason there's sexual shame is because it's this taboo to talk about sex or wanting to have sex. And so one solution then is like, well, let's just legalize everything and get it out in the open so that the shame no longer exists. But I think shame, like, there's always going to be something deeper, right? There's always going to be that next level thing, because part of what makes it taboo and makes it titillating is the fact that it is illegal, that it is socially unacceptable.
So if you remove all of that, then you don't have that taboo, that shame.
Well, you just,
this is-
I mean, it's going to be the next level thing. People are going to find something that's going to, it's sort of like water rises to the, to its own level. It's like,
Yeah. And it's never questions like legalizing alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex, or anything like that. It's never a simple question of like, yeah,
No.
this is the benefit, this is not. It's about looking at what's the net benefit of something. So, for example, there's always going to be a loss to or a consequence of something. There's always going to be a negative to it. So, is there going to be a net positive? Is there going to be some parts of it is going to be, for sure, there's going to be negative sides to it, but is there going to be a net positive to it? Because, I mean, if you look at society now, guys are already spending so much money on porn, OnlyFans. They're already spending a lot of money on taking out, dating women, spending a lot of money on a lot of things. And I was wondering if this part was, say, legalized, or if it was, say, monitored and it wasn't such a taboo, would it still have that same sting? Would they still have that need or urgency? So it was just a real question about just finding out, would it really serve men? Would there be a net benefit to it, or would there be a net negative to it? Because to me, whether it's legalized or not, we still have to deal with the internal challenges and problems that we have, the psychology of that, which is, can I still meet women? Can guys still attract women? Can guys still have the confidence, build intimacy, have difficult conversations? And whether it's legal or not, we can still see men are still struggling. Men are still struggling in relationships. Men are still struggling as being single. Men are still struggling in situationships. Men are still going out and doing a lot of the habits. I mean, like seeing escorts, it happens everywhere. Every single country, every single culture has that. So I wonder what we can do in the future to make sure that this is a net benefit for men and also a net benefit for women as well. And it's just an open conversation. It's really not easy to make a one way or the other way.
Yeah, I agree. There's, it's kind of the Buddhist approach of, all things are beneficial. It's just some things are more beneficial than other things, So what's the most beneficial thing? There's definitely a benefit to legalizing prostitution, and there's a benefit to keeping it illegal. What's the most beneficial thing? And sometimes that's not easy to answer until you open up the conversations.
And that's one of the most important things is, for example, I come from a culture and society and religion where talking about sex, talking about shame, talking about anything to do with this is a big no-no. It's a big taboo. Having a conversation, family will look at you and go, why are you talking about such things like that? And I think this is the thing that in my own personal journey, personal development, growth journey, that not avoiding having a conversation about intimacy, my real feelings with my intimate partner, really created blocks in connection and communication than it did anything else. So I want to help guys to be able to really own their own sexuality, really own and start healing those sexual fractures that keeps them going towards dysfunctional sides of them, really going towards frustration and dysfunctions, and saying, how can we help? How can we work on dysfunction? So it's a real difficult conversation to have. Do you see a lot of guys have a lot of sexual taboo, like sexual fractures or shame around that? They're not able to really express their needs and wants.
Yeah, I think that's probably most guys struggle with that taboo piece of it. It's like that part of, that primitive drive, that wants to explore sexually. I think the thing is that there's a disconnect between like sexuality and intimacy. And I think that a lot of men crave intimacy, but they sexualize it, and they think that they're going to get intimacy through sex. Whereas I think, and I think that it does come from that, right? But there's this longing to really go into a deeper sense of connection with the other, and we don't know how to do that. And so we'll basically take the junk food option, which is the easy route, and trade true intimacy for just sexual gratification. And I think that until you start answering that intimacy question, you're always going to have that taboo. And I think even Robert Glover talks about the idea of like, you cannot be sexually intimate with another person until you learn to be sexually intimate with yourself. And that's where his chapters on healthy masturbation come into play, of learning how to be sexually intimate with yourself and to be able to experience pleasure within yourself and to be intimate, so that you can bring that into the bedroom. And I don't think prostitution or porn or any of those kind of things. I mean, if you look at porn, for example, here's a spectrum, right? So you've got, on one side, you've got intimacy, love, and connection. And on the other side, you have visceral fucking, right? And porn is over here on this side. It's on like, I just want to fuck, this kind of animalistic type of thing. I mean, in porn, there's no, except for like porn for women, maybe there's, it's not like, there's these deeper conversations going on, and I'm really connecting with this other person, before we get to the sex act. It's like, no, it's like, yeah, I want to see, let's get to the money shot. Right. So it becomes this thing of chasing the orgasm or the dopamine release and all of that, rather than like the journey, and learning how to like relate to another human being. So I think
but some guys don't want all of that. Some guys, especially when you're younger, you're like, I just want to get to the physical part. I haven't got time for that intimacy. And especially now, with so many guys that are single, sexless, virgin guys that don't have that capacity, and it's that trajectory is getting worse and worse and worse. So yeah, I think we're
just make it easy for them. And
well, the thing is, right now, what's the alternative? Do they go more underground, and it becomes more of a problem, or do we start?
No, we teach them how to fucking be intimate. We teach them how to have relationships. That's where we come in as older men, and coach them and say, "Hey, look, man, this is how you do it. This is how you get a woman. This is how you." Okay, and if we just make it easy on them, then like we're doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I think you brought up, though, Faisal, was about a mismatch in sex drive between men and women. Wasn't this one of the reasons for considering legalizing prostitution? Was that?
Yeah. So you do have couples that way, or couples, or even where you have a mismatch in sex drive. So guys have been in a long-term relationship, and one feels like they have a much higher need. I know couples where the guy has a very low need and the woman has a really high need as well. So usually the mismatch of guys who are high on testosterone and they need that sex, they need that drive. And even some women, wives say to them, go out and just get that sex. So you do have that mismatch. What do you want to say?
And people's sex drive can change in a long-term relationship or marriage too. And then what do you do?
That's a good question. What do you do when that changes? So that person is no longer fulfilling your sexual needs.
Yeah. Do you end the relationship?
I think, again, I mean, going back to the idea of like monogamy and that kind of thing. I mean, if you're in a sexual relationship, okay, you're in a relationship where you're having sex, that becomes a sexual relationship. And whether or not you choose to have just one single sexual relationship or you have multiple relationships, there's a level in which that relationship changes. There's a shift because, I don't have sex with every single person that I meet. But I talk to everybody that I meet and I am friendly with everybody I meet and I shake hands with people, so there's this gateway of when a relationship becomes sexual, it kind of goes to the next level. And you can cut out all that other stuff by making it purely transactional based on monetary, on money. But, you still have the need as humans to relate to each other.
So what happens in a relationship where his sexual needs aren't being met, but everything else is being met? So everything else is great, but my sexual needs, I have a high sex drive, he says, and she cannot meet that. What happens? Do you end the relationship? Everything else is great. For example, women will end the relationship when she's not emotionally, might have a good sex life, but her emotional needs, primal needs of emotional connection isn't being met. She'll say, I don't
this
feel
is
that
where
emotional connection.
you have to have two things. You have to have, so if you're going to be in a monogamous relationship, you have to have loyalty and generosity. Okay. So the loyalty piece is I'm going to be monogamous, right? So I'm not going to have sex outside of this relationship. But we also agree that there's going to be generosity in the relationship where both people's sexual needs are going to be able to be met. And if it's a season, if it's like, okay, she's going through menopause or something like that, then we can, but as long as we're working on that piece to reconnect, because I think when you just throw up your hands and you go, well, I'm just not, I don't have the sex drive I used to have. That's a bullshit excuse. Like, go find out what's going on. Get your levels checked. Get your, testosterone checked. Start working out. Stop being a slob. Like do something about it rather than just be like, oh, this is just the way that I am. And if it's truly like, I mean, if she or he, is incapable because something happens, an illness or accident or something like that, then I think the couple needs to redefine the relationship. Is this going to be a sexual relationship? I think it's fine to be married and not be in a sexual relationship. You're going to be committed partners and do everything else in life, but you're just not going to have sex in the relationship. But talk about it and make sure that everybody agrees that that's what's going to be. Otherwise, you're just being held hostage.
Okay. So if you're in I get totally that you could be in a marriage and not have sex. But what happens if one person, say the guy, wants to go and have sex?
The other person doesn't want to have sex. Does the other person want them to have? So if the other person is like, I don't want to have sex with you, and I don't want you to have sex with anybody else, that's a hostage situation.
What do you think, Ari?
I just like the framing of it. Marriage as a hostage situation.
It is oftentimes though, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of guys run into is they feel held hostage in their relationship because the wife is saying, I don't want to have sex with you and I don't want you to have sex with anybody else and I don't want you to look at porn and I don't want you to masturbate. I want you to be asexual, right? And that's to me, that's just as bad as cheating. That is an infidelity.
Okay, so now you're definitely opening up some more topics here. What happens if she wants her emotional needs fulfilled, but she goes outside and gets them done?
Again, it comes down to a loyalty and generosity. I think it's the guys, up to a point. It's like, yeah, I'm going
She goes to a therapist.
She goes to a therapist, or she goes to girlfriends, or she could, fine. But
the guy's going, well, okay, here's the argument. So women find emotional cheating very difficult, and men find sexual cheating, physical sex cheating, very difficult. And I was listening to some evolution psychology on this. The reason why it's very painful is, so for example, she sees that the guy she's with is getting emotionally invested in another woman. What will happen is that she's thinking, well, if he just has sex with her, she can tolerate that more. It's still painful, but she can tolerate that more because she knows that he'll just have sex, but he'll come back to me. But if he gets involved emotionally with her, which women find more on average, more painful, is that it's likely that if he's getting emotionally involved with her, that the resources, the protection, the provisions can also be divided or go to her. So that's why women are a lot more protective and cautious of her emotional affair. Whereas a guy is going, well, if she physically has sex with somebody else, then I could be raising and providing provisions for not my DNA, not my genes. My question was that if she's going to the therapist and having her emotional needs being met, and the guy, we lived in a world where we had neutral meaning to things, that he went to a woman escort to have his sexual needs met. Is that comparable or not?
Again, I think as long as you're talking about it and both people agree, there has to be an agreement. And if there's not an agreement, then you have to negotiate, and you may have to negotiate yourself out of the relationship.
Yeah, I think it comes down to being in a conscious relationship with someone, which is hard to do, which people aren't taught to do.
Which is why if you legalize prostitution, then they'll never learn how to do it. I mean, that's a big generalization, but I mean, that's kind of what I was getting to earlier, is like, if we don't learn how to have communication and relationships that go beyond just sexual things, then, we're really selling ourselves short.
I think in an idealistic society, yeah, that would be the great thing would be, yeah, we're all conscious. So we don't have any fast food, any kind of like damaging kind of habits, but we are still quite primitive animals. We're still quite,
Which is, but that's why the law exists.
Yeah, I mean, the law does exist. I mean, the law exists when it comes to food. I mean, if you look at the law in America, it doesn't protect its nation from really bad food. I mean, if you
100%.
you can have the same food in the EU, because EU has a lot of strict conditions around it. So, but then some EU countries have legalized prostitution, and some parts of America does as well. So again, there isn't a one answer to it. There isn't a one answer that will solve it. But it is worth thinking about. Is like, what can be the net benefit? What prices do we have to pay for it as well?
Well, I think, and what you're talking about, Faisal, is that there's a problem. We come up with a solution, but that solution then creates more problems.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the way most life goes as well. We're not going to eradicate one problem, but it's one problem better than the other problem. And again, we have to figure out what's the net benefit of the trajectory of where the world is going. And again, I'm not saying whether we should legalize it or not. I'm presenting that. So, guys, what do you think? Is it time for the world, the country, to start legalizing this? Is it time for us to not feel to have some shame around it. I know some women are pro, some women are like, yeah, it should be legalized. Some women are saying, no, it shouldn't be legalized. And again, some men are and some are not. So there's definitely both sides to this as well. So what are your thoughts? I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear some of your points as well. Pop it down in the comment section as well. And, we do read them out. Yeah. And again, thank you for being part of the Nice Guy Show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like, subscribe, and help us reach more men who do need the support, who do want to become conscious as well. And if you like this podcast, check out podcast number 113, Who Should Initiate Sex? And remember that there is no right answer. There's always going to be less of a wrong answer. All right, gentlemen, see you on the next